Doobie doobie doo. All right. Have we gone live yet? There we go. We are officially live. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our live webinar. My name is Terry Danich-Kimiak II. I'm the digital painter, and you are watching us on a Sunday night if you're watching us live. If you're watching this as a recorded video, enjoy it. But I see we've already got a couple people in here tonight, which I'm really excited about. We've got Ronnie's here. I see I love my two nephews. I like that name. I have only one nephew right now. No, I have two nephews too. Sorry, I get distracted easily. All right, so it's been a while. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. I just finished a show actually earlier today. I work, for those that know me, know that I do theater. I'm a theater professor, and we just closed a show today, struck it. It's all taken down, all put away, and I'm feeling pretty good. Actually used a lot of my Photoshop and After Effects on that show because I did... Oh, Charmaine. Okay, fabulous. Did a lot of that work because I was doing projections for it. And maybe later I'll pull up some of that stuff so you can kind of see what I did. But what we're going to be doing today is we're actually going to be looking at flowers, springtime flowers. I've been doing a little bit of research on some springtime flowers. Actually used my wife to help me. Now, I'm going to be working in Photoshop. Feel free, if you're watching this live, to work in any art program that you use, whether it's Photoshop, Clip Paint Studio, Corel Painter, Rebel Watercolor, PaintStorm Studio. All of them are great. I'm just using this one because that's what I have up, and it's what I've been using as of late. And why does my magic picker look like this? There we go, much better. And we're gonna kind of look at the forms of flowers. One of the things that I want to talk a little bit about is how do we create that composition. Now, I've got some older videos on composition, but, it doesn't hurt to do a refresher, composing your image. Now, I'm going to be working on a 7-inch wide by 5-inch tall piece. I'm working at 300 DPI, which is the size that I tend to work at if I ever feel like I'm going to paint it. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull this over. So you can see some of the things that I've been looking at petunias and daisies, tulips and daffodils. And some of the things that we need to look at when we look at flowers is how are they composed, right? So if we look at this flower right here, we've got this is the daffodil, of course. You've got your central cup here, with your leaves spread out around it. Notice that the leaves do curl up a little bit along the edges. This is important when it comes to shadows and highlights. It's important, as you pick your coloration as you're moving through. Over here we have, this is our tulip. Tulip is kind of cup-shaped, right? Several interlocking petals. You've got our daisies with that bright yellow center, and then our white petals around. When you're doing something with white petals around the outside, you're going to want to make sure that you've got a decent background. Just so everybody knows, the stream is on about a 30 to 45 second delay. So if you do type something in the stream, I will respond, but it may come 30 to 45 seconds later. And then we've got the petunia, and this was actually one of the ones my wife brought up, and I really love the veins of the petunia, right? So one of the things we're going to talk about is how we can get that vein work in there. Now, one of the things I was mentioning is, Photoshop's down here, is you want to think about your composition, right? You want to think about how you're going to set up your image. And just like photography, which I teach at the colleges, I like to think about the rule of thirds. Now, if I remember correctly, let me see. Snap guide, show, grid. All right. So here is my grid. Now, if you're using Photoshop, the way to pull up the grid is actually in your preferences. and you have to go to Guides, Grids, and Slices. And you see here, I've got my subdivisions into 3 for my grid. Okay. Now, different programs are going to have their grids set up differently. If I remember correctly, why don't I just pop up ArtRage real quick? And when I say real quick, we'll see if it's actually real quick. It is. Good. I'm not going to check now. But ArtRage has a grid button up top here, and you can actually set up your grid in here. This is a 10 pixel grid. You'd have to do some math to get it exactly how you want it. We're not going to do that right now. So I have my grid. Hey James, how's it going? We're talking about, well, we're going to talk about flowers here. Now, when we're looking at our 3 grid here, our strongest, oops, I know. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Our strongest points are here, 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 and here. After that, your strongest points are along this line, this line, this line, and this line, okay? So those are your strongest compositional points. The great thing about this is I just delete that and I add a new layer and we're back to drawing again, okay? So when you're looking at your images, you know, you're looking at your flowers, you want to think about where you want to set things, okay? So why don't we do, let's work on the daffodil first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save image as, and I'm just going to save it to my desktop. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here, where's Photoshop? Good. I'm going to file, open it, go to the desktop. Okay, this way I have my image. I can see it. If I wanted to, I could actually pull it out like this. Good. Do that. Set that up there. So now I have my image that I can look at. Different programs allow you to do this in different variations. I like how Photoshop has got it set up right now. I also love ArtRage is another one. You can set up your reference images right on your canvas, and it's awesome. So depending on the program you're using, think about that. So we've got our image right here. We're looking at it, and when I do this, a couple things that I want. I've got to think about my strong point, and my strong point really is my orange cup here. Okay, now I talk about these points and these lines as locations that you want to kind of look at for your sketch. You can really put it anywhere. There is no hard and fast rules. One of the things that you'll notice, though, when you put an image directly in the center, you very quickly look at it, and then there's no place for your eyes to move. Okay, so you know I'm going to just put a circle there. You hit the circle, and then you're done. Okay, and that's why these areas here, you know, here and here, if you place things in those areas, now there's space for our eyes to move around. Okay, we're not boom. Oh, Clip Studio does it too. That's awesome. I've actually got Clip Studio. No, I don't have. Do I have? Yeah, that's what that is, right? I have a lot of programs. I'm sorry, James. So we look at this and we think, where do we want to place it? Well, I'm going to take this center area here, and because it's at kind of this upward angle, I'm actually going to locate it right in here so that it kind of extends this way. That's the other thing. I like to think about the direction that my images are moving compositionally within the space. If I were to take this and put it here and have it point out this way, then what's going to happen is your eye is going to look here, it's going to travel here, and be done with the image. So having it over in this area and then traveling this way is better. So we look at this. Now the first thing that I'm going to look at is we've got kind of there's a circle here, and then down the circle this way into almost kind of a pyramid. So I tend to do my sketches kind of rough. I gotta find that'll work, right? So there, boom, boom, boom. And again, I tend to, different artists will work in different ways. And one of the things that I feel like I'm doing right now is I've got this 2 circular. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come in. I feel like it should be a little more voomped. Now I use voomp as kind of a term. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So we've begun the image, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to look to see how all of our petals move. Now if you notice, there's a nice curve here, curve there. There are some points in this area, but then at the same point this petal curves all the way around. And we've got to look, I'm going to adjust a little more. I think this should be more like that. And again, I'm just roughing out my image. Now, I'm going to be working in watercolor, and what that means for me is that I'm not going for photorealism. I'm going for kind of an artistically painterly feel, which is different. If you're going photorealism, that's fine. That's great. It's just not a style that I like to work in. I was actually telling a couple of my students after the show tonight, I'm not a fan of photorealism. I'm very impressed with people who can do it. But for me, I like the painterly kind of seeing the paint on the page, for me, is a lot more enjoyable. Because I like that feeling of artistry. I know it's weird. But that's just kind of how I've always worked. Let's get this, our little, what's that, stamen? Is that the term for the middle of the, I gotta look at these lines here. Sometimes I get a little too talkative and forget what I'm trying to do. And we're gonna just sketch these in. As we go through, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. The other thing, if anybody's, I'm just going to talk a little bit here, is I had to actually get on one of my students today because she told me she couldn't do something. And one of the things I'm very adamant about is that, truthfully, you can do anything you want, but you have to be willing to put the work into what it is you're doing. When I first started drawing, I could not draw. I couldn't. I mean, if I'm going to be honest with myself, my drawings were terrible. And truthfully, I'm out of my comfort element right now because as a scene designer, I am generally drawing things that are more architectural rather than organic. And so this idea of organic sketching, this idea of organic drawing is not easy for me to do. So I am out of my comfort element. Now, having said that, I am always willing to try. I will never give up on things. And that's probably one of my strongest points when it comes to my art. So let's look here. I feel like that comes out a little bit. And this is good. I actually like it when my stuff goes off the page like this. That might be a little too big. We'll have to see. Oh, there we go, actually. Might have been a little too small. And the reason I keep peeking back is my chat box is over here. So, and then this one comes out here. And we look up here. And then this one kind of comes. Now this one has kind of that flip up. We got to see where it ends over here. Move that here for me. this one kind of comes from here. Now we gotta look. So we're looking here. It looks like I've gone a little too high here. And so I'm gonna actually bring that down. One of the things you'll notice, you've almost got a perfect circle around. So you wanna make sure that you're not extending any of your petals too far on this. Again, this is a daffodil. A daffodil. Now this one's almost at this angle here. So now it cuts back here before it comes up. I'm going to clean all these lines up, obviously. And then comes. Again, actually, I think what it is, I think I need to go out a little further on this one. That feels a little better. Let's get this last one in, and then we will adjust as we go. And goes up, and then cuts back. Now, voomp. So up, cuts back this way, before it comes back down. Now, the thing with this, again, because I'm not, going photorealistic, I could have easily, if I wanted to, I could have easily taken measurements, or even so, I could have traced. Tracing has its place, but that's not what I'm doing right now. What I'm focusing on is, again, the artistic feel of it. So I'm going to pull that out a little more. This one, again, actually, I think this one overlaps that one. There we go. And then we have this little shadow here, which I'm going to kind of sketch it in. We've got a little shadow here. And these are just kind of markers for me. Because again, I'm going to be doing this in a watercolor style. Now you could do this in acrylics too, or oil style, any of those styles. I just like to throw in quick ideas of where my shadows are, because it can kind of help me out. Now again, notice here that my focus is in this corner and it radiates up and to the right. That's on purpose. Right now I have left this area open, which is fine. Because for me, it's about the focus of the flower, the image of the flower, the feel. Just trying to now I think, okay, so one of the things I'm looking at here is, how do I feel about this? I almost feel like this should come almost to a point here before it comes back. My opening, I feel, needs to be open a little more. There we go. There we go. And actually what it looks like is there is a fold here. Yeah. How do we feel about that? Yeah, Ronnie, I know me and you have talked about that a couple of times. Though the stuff that you come up with in your mind is actually pretty phenomenal too. So, I mean, you've got kind of a creativity that you're right. I don't think, you know, not necessary. For me, the reference is a guide, right? Now, if I'm doing my theater work and I'm doing, you know, stuff that's got to be built for production, I tend to be a little more exacting. But here, it is more of a guide, kind of the direction that I want to go in. So I think we've got the basis down of what I want it to look like. And as always, I tend to work in a layer separate from my color. And I just take my pencil down a little bit. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is lay in some colors and start to get a feel. Now, if we're looking at this image, right, we see yellows, well, we've got orange up here. If we were to look at these, so let's just have a little fun here. Let's do color picking. And you can see by color picking this area, it's actually kind of in the browns, right? Down here, we've got a little more red to it because that red is the reflection off the flower hitting the petal. If we come out here, it's some pretty vibrant yellows. But then again, we go out here to the shadows, and it's actually pulling to the browns. Yeah, you know, on that note, James, you have a very good point about teaching you things that you never would have thought of. So one of the things that I teach in my basic principles of design class for theater is to look at things and draw what you see, not what you think you see. And we all have this image of how things should look, but we sometimes don't really look at things. And so I'm oftentimes telling my students, guys, listen, what you need to do is you have to draw what you actually see. So look at the item and draw the planes of the item, the perspective of the item. For example, a lot of students will come in, I'm just going to do a quick new layer, and they'll draw walls for a building or for some flats, right? They'll draw it like this. And what I'll say is, so what you're telling me is you can see the top of each of those walls that are 8 to 10 feet tall, and they'll say, no, I can't. So why are you drawing the tops of the walls? Why are you not instead drawing it so you can't see the tops of the walls? Okay? So this is the right way to draw walls, and then you can give your walls a little bit of thickness. Okay, and maybe give yourself a door right here. Okay, and if you're going to do a door, maybe it's just an opening, something like that. Instead of what you've done here, which visually speaking doesn't make any sense unless you are standing up so tall that you can see the tops of these flats. Okay, and so that's for me where the reference images come in, is the ability to kind of look and really study it. So let's go ahead. I'm going to grab my Kyle Webster watercolor brushes. Okay, and we're going to start with, maybe we do the natural edges today. I usually use the Amazing brushes. Let me look. This is one of those things where I gotta just kind of... Actually, we'll go with Amazing. Okay. Keeping it in personal perspective. That's exactly it. Keeping it in personal perspective, where you're standing, where you're looking. James, good comments. You guys are fabulous today. I was so worried that we weren't going to have a lot of people and people chit-chatting. So I'm thrilled. Now, one of the things that I'm going to mention here, okay, is you can do one of two things. So for me, what I'm actually working on is my sketching very quickly and pulling a piece together. I'm not necessarily working on my coloring. So if you're doing an image like this, what you could do is you could actually pull your colors directly from your image like I just did right there, right? And you start to lay in your colors like there, okay? Now, having said that, if what you're doing is you're working on your coloring, if you're working on your how to choose colors, my suggestion would be to not color pick like what I'm doing right now here, picking those colors, but actually try and look at it and match it on your color wheel. Now, for those that don't know, I'm in Photoshop. I'm using Magic Picker, something that I picked up fairly cheap because I really like how it works. So, you know, pull into the yellow, and then we have to kind of, I think our yellow is a little on the orangey side. Okay, so let's see how close I got. So if we're looking at this, let's do 53, 76, 100. But if I actually color pick this area, 58, 53, 98. Oh, that's actually not too bad. I was pretty close on that choice. So I'm going to actually just use what I just color picked here. That's fine. But that's what I'm talking about is sometimes, depending on what you're trying to create, color picking from an image, not a terrible idea. Now again, we are on a new layer here, and I'm going to start laying in. Again, I like the watercolory feel, so if things overlap and they don't look perfect, I'm okay with that. With the Amazing brushes, it allows me to do, if I loosen or lighten up my brush, I can actually pull up some of the color. I like having my edges a little harder than my middle. So we've got that there. I'm going to come this side now. Bring this in. And again, just going to kind of lighten up a little bit. I like my outside edges darker. Now each program should have a shortcut key for this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin mine around like so that I can work in this manner. Now what you'll notice is I'm going over the shadows in the petals themselves, but in the outside edges, but I'm leaving that bottom shadow. Hold on, I'll show you with my pointer here in a second. Sometimes I wish I had a second camera shooting over my shoulder, so when I pointed to things, you guys would see exactly what I'm talking about. So this area I'm not going over, but in these small shadows up in the corners, I am going over, and you'll see in a bit why. Now this one's bigger, so I'm actually going to let that one go. Now there is no, well, there's a couple places that are uber white in this. Now if I was doing this as regular watercolor, any place that was white, I would be masking fluid off and painting over and then pulling the masking fluid up later. But because this is digital, I have a little more leeway of going over those areas and then coming back and fixing it. Now this is actually going to be the piece for my Patreon members this month. I'm going to finish this up and they will get a high res copy for those that are Patreon members. If you are interested in being a Patreon member, all you got to do is check out my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/thedigitalpainter. You don't have to though, because I just like doing these live webinars regardless. All right, now another thing you can do, which I haven't done yet, is if we go into window, we can, in this, is it extensions? No. workspace, arrange. There we go. In arrange, we can do a new window for our untitled. And what we can do here is we can have a large look at it while I'm working on it. So I have my reference image here. I have my large look image, and then here, when I zoom in and out, I can continue to work on it and not worry. So let me grab and see how it shows up here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work all on one layer. Now this is where it becomes a little tricky as a watercolorist. In watercolor, what I would actually do is wet this entire area and bring in the varying tones and differentiations. What we're going to try here is with this set, I do have some soft edge blenders. So on the very outside edge, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to lay down some of my outside color. You see how I'm lightening it a little bit as we go. And you see we're still kind of hard, but if I come in with one of our blenders, let's see what we've got. Let's try our soft blender. We'll just blend that a little bit, just along the one edge. Notice I'm not going to blend across the entire thing because that, oops. Let's hit the right button, Terry. Okay. Because then we can come in here and bring in our second color. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to just bring it a little bit. Again, I'm going to kind of lighten it up. Because what we can do again with these soft edge blenders is start to pull them together. Now, one of the things you're going to see here is it goes a little, what I call soft. You know, we lose a bit of the grain. And there is, if I remember correctly, I'm going to scroll up and find it. There's a paper texture that you can put back in. Add paper texture. And you see, you start to get some of that blended. So now we have it and it starts to blend to each other. Okay, now what I'm going to end up doing here a lot of is I'm going to do a lot of color picking and moving about. So I'm going to come in, right? I'm going to come in with a second layer here. And what I may look like is pull maybe some of this. Maybe some of this. Start to bring it all together. Then maybe come over and do a little bit of blending. And then add a little bit of the paper back. Where's my add paper texture? Now, unless you're doing something like using Rebel Watercolor or Corel Painter, you know, there is a step-by-step that you gotta kinda do to pull it all back together, okay? Now we're looking, mine's a little browner than up here. I'm okay with that right now. I'm actually going to personally pick my orange though, because I love the brightness. It's kind of a reddish orange. And what we're going to do is we're going to just start to lay in some of that. And we're going to switch to a different brush. Really get the top edge kind of but I am going to steal a little bit of this color right there. Yes. Okay. Now again, a lot of what I'm laying in right now is the basic colors. Oh wow, it looks a little different on the YouTube than it does on the YouTube than it does on my come down a little bit. Let me see here. Sorry, I've gone a little quiet. When I start to concentrate, that'll happen. Now, just like any other watercolor, I'm going to build up layers as I go. So, right now we're still in the early process. Oh, now we're starting to get some things, some really lovely things. Okay. Again, just kind of playing with different kind of bringing that softness. Watercolor. Gonna steal a little bit of that color there. Okay, what we need is we need more of this. Let me come out like that. Just to give it a little more texture. There we go. Look at that. Now we're having fun. Are we having fun? I'm having fun. Just gonna bring some more of this in here just to start to fill it in. Okay. Just kind of giving a little more texture here. Gonna bring this darker, just a little darker. Bring that up. Now what we're going to do is just take a couple of these. And then what we need is we need some of this uber darkness. And we're going to start to pull some of our lines down. Maybe pull something like that. And then maybe a little bit of darker shadow up top along the edge of some of the areas. Maybe a little more. Of course, just pulling down the blend. And again, I keep referencing over here, right? I'm going to actually make that a little bigger. Right there, good. And slowly but surely, we start to build up exactly what we're trying to achieve here, right? Giving me a little bit of an orange with the red next to it, right? Now I've done all this on one layer. You could have easily done this on multiple layers. A little bit of the yellow down here along this edge. My detail brush. Ugh. Mm. Ugh. Didn't like that either. No. Hmm. Which I hate when you get to a point and you're like, "Urgh." I'm still not happy with this right now. I'm not terribly mortified with it, but I may end up doing this. And this is the advantages of digital, right? You don't like something, you can easily rid yourself of it and try coming back to it. Because I wasn't happy how that was turning out compared to the rest of the image. So we're going to come back to that. And I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to use this. Yes, I like that better. Doesn't feel quite as angry. I'm just going to kind of lay down our original, like a base, and then come back over it with the oranges, because these are set to multiply, these brushes. Yeah, I already love this so much better than what we had before. I'm just kind of... Yes, 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 yes. Doesn't that feel better? In fact, while we're sitting here, I'm going to come in. Why don't we add our shadows up here? There's actually going to be some yellow up there. Yeah, there we go. That feels so much better. You notice I keep peeking up at my miniature one because I'm trying to see what it looks like as a whole, because I am kind of zoomed in a little bit here. This one over here. There we go. And then we're actually going to grab some of the yellow, I think. Let's see. Yeah. Starts to tint it just a little bit. Oh, too far. There we go, just to give it a little bit of a yellow tinge. And we'll come back over here. Give my outside just a little more. Now, let's real quick, let's take the pencil out. What this allows us to do is we could just kind of see where we want to start to work on it without the pencil hindering our view. You know, where do we want to blend some? Now there's a... Add water slowly. Whoa, that's slowly? Let's try that again. Oh, interesting. I kind of like that. I'll come back and play with that. Let's go back up, grab this brush. Let's look at real quick. Where do I want to work? I want to get, I think I want some of this detail along my edges. Now I do have a detail brush, and it's down right there. And what we're going to do, now sometimes it's kind of fun to just throw your lines down and start to see, you can see it up there, what it's starting to do. As always, as people come and go, if you have any questions, you let me know. Now what I'm doing here, this is where some of the artistic license comes into play. Just kind of giving it a little bit of shadowy feel in some of the edges areas. This is so I can make it mine. I really like this dark edge right along the side. I'm just going to bring some of that back into it on some of these areas. Just a little bit of the yellow. Oops. Again, just trying to bring back some of that interest. Because when it comes to this stuff, it's in the details, right? I'm going to actually switch up to, that's my, I'm going to come back down to this one. Make it a little smaller though. Just give us a little more, maybe some thickness there. I think I need to touch up, yes. So what I want to do, grab my detail brush and reduce the size a little bit. Oh, too dark. So let's come. No, I don't like that. I don't like it. So let's grab like a dark yellow then. This is where I wish I had a fan brush. Alright, Chipaka. I don't like that. I don't like it. Luckily, undo. What I need there is I need a nice blend. So let's see what this does. It's okay. It's okay. I can, let's see if I can live with that. Just bring in a little more of the brown here. Actually, this can be pretty. We're actually gonna come in, kind of make this. But then what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of, I'm gonna grab the yellow. I'm gonna grab my detail brush. And we're gonna actually grab a little lighter yellow. There we go. And again, always checking back at my image up here just to kind of see what I want to do. Just bringing this in a little tighter. We're actually going to come back, I think. Where's my water? Nope. Nope. Let's grab a softer. Actually, let's do this. One of the things you can do with these, instead of multiply, let's go clear. I'm going to start to clear some of the edges. Let's find a different brush though. Natural edge. Let's try that one. There we go. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to grab some of the yellow. Just going to bring in a little of the yellow. Then we're going to blend. We're going to zoom out a little bit. You can kind of see where this is going, yeah? Now, if you really want to, what I can do is do this and my shift button. All right. So in this layer, we're gonna grab, where's my big and 200 big softy? Let's try that. I don't like that background. Let's undo that. There we go. I'm just giving us a background so it's offset a little bit. I feel like the blue in the actual image is a little too harsh. So we're doing kind of a softer blue. And there we go. Okay. So now one of the things I want to do is start to add in a little more saturation in my leaves. Now one of the things you'll see that I'm doing is I'm not doing a full coverage anymore because I'm trying to give it a little more texture. I'm going to blend out some of that in a second. I think what we want up here, I think that's why I left that. And slowly but surely it starts to come together. What do I want? think in the future I need to put music on too, hey? Pulling some of the other colors in to the shadows now. Right? Kind of like that. Probably grab some of the yellow. Pull it into the browns. Nah, huh. It just keeps coming closer. That's what, you know, I get excited about this stuff. Blend this a little more. But that's because I'm kind of a dork. This really should have come. Oops. Let me see if I can actually bring it over a little bit. It really should be closer to that. And just blend that a little bit. All right, we're hitting about 10:10 tonight, so I'm going to start pulling the webinar to a close. Like I said, this image I think is going to be our image for our Patreon members this month. So if you are, or for our Patreon members this month, so if you are a Patreon member, then I'm going to work on this, continue to finish it up. I'm really kind of liking how it's coming out. Again, not photorealism, really is about kind of playing with the watercolor. A couple areas I feel like I've gone a little too far on, and I'm going to have to go back and kind of fix them. But that's because I'll be honest, out of practice a little bit from the past several weeks due to work. So I've been doing different type of stuff there. Blend that a little bit. That's actually kind of nice. Can we blend that together? Okay. And I think once we're finished, we're going to have a really nice image. I'm not sure how I feel about the background. I may actually switch that out. I don't mind the blue. I don't know. Maybe a green background to kind of really pop it a little bit. Pop it like it's hot. Pop it like it's hot. We'll see. But I do want to, you know, like I want to come in and do stuff like this. Just to kind of start to pop it. Especially along the outside edges. We really want that yellow to make a name for itself. So if there are no other questions tonight, I hope you enjoyed our Mayflowers drawing session. Would love to see if you guys create stuff. Would love to see what you come up with. I am a big fan of seeing other people's work. Not that I, don't mind, kind of extolling my work, but it's always nice to see what other people are coming up with because it fascinates me on, a creative level, what other people are designing. So definitely make sure that, if you're creating stuff, would love to see it. And we will be doing these. I'm looking forward to the summer. I got a bunch more webinar fun to do. And that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for coming by. My name is Terry Danishkimiak II. I am your digital painter. And this has been another one of my monthly webinars. Take care.